Sangye Chudan Soki Chognam La Jang Chu Badu Dagi Kyap Suchi Dagi Chenyen Gi Pe Sonam Gi Drola Penchu Sangye Drupar Shuk Sangye Chudan Soki Chognam La Jang Chu Badu Dagi Kyap Suchi Dagi Chenyen Gi Pe Sonam Gi Drola Penchir Sangye Drupa Shu Sangye Chudan Soki Chognam La Jantu Badu Dagni Kyap Suchi Dagi Chenyen Gi Pe Sonam Gi Drola Penchir Sangye Drupa Shu.
Okay, let's do a couple of minutes meditation on the breath. So think the purpose of my life is to lead all sentient beings from suffering to enlightenment. In order to do that, first I have to reach enlightenment myself, and that depends upon completing the entire path to enlightenment. That depends upon studying teachings on the path to enlightenment, thinking about them, meditating on them, realizing them. Therefore, I'm going to study this morning Atisha's text, Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, in order to understand the teachings on the path, so that I might reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So, very briefly like that, just generate bodhicitta motivation for this morning's session. Okay, morning everybody. So we've been at this for a while. Any questions? Ed?
You sort of left over from last time. I had a question, and I think your mother actually asked it before I did. And it was something when she met with His Holiness, and it was something in the context. So this is Mayan now. If you take Bodhisattva vows, are you setting yourself, and obviously you're not capable of fulfilling them. And I think Lama Zopa advises, if you wait till you're ready to take them, you're never going to be ready. Just sort of irrefutable logic. But if you take them, you're obviously going to make mistakes. Are there two bad karmas there? The karma of like the non-virtuous act and the karma of violating one of the vows. And if you try in the context of the vows, do you get, this is a terrible word, Nick, but you get credit just for trying even though you fail? No, I don't mean you would get merit from, but I guess it's kind of the same question your mom asked His Holiness, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember that. What was that question?
It was pretty much the same thing. I mean, how does one function in the context of vows where one knows one can't conceivably keep them because that's why one's taking them, so one can work and perfect one's being, so one can keep them. But what happens with the karmic impact of simply trying very hard but failing?
Well, if we take them with understanding the lamrim teachings up to that point, and have a strong feeling of an understanding of the sufferings of samsara, our own and those of others, and we have a strong compassion for not just ourselves, which we do, but all other sentient beings, and we feel that we want to relieve their suffering, and we see that the only way we can do that, or the best way we can do that, is by becoming enlightened ourselves. And we take the Bodhisattva vows with that kind of pure intention, then that's, I mean, we create a huge amount of merit just by doing that. And then we take, and we have aspiring bodhicitta, we want to, for a while, we think, well, I'd like to become a bodhisattva, how wonderful it would be, etc., etc. And then we think, well, I really should do it. So then we take the bodhisattva vows, the 64 that we went through. And we do it with the understanding, as you say, that we're not going to be able to keep them perfectly or even at all at the beginning, but our intention is to keep them. And so we try to remember what the vows are. We try to remember to notice when we break them. And if we notice we've ever broken them, we try and do purification straight away. Like it says in this little Vajrasattva book. Remember about Atisha? It says, in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, Dipamkara Rinpoche explains how the great Atisha would purify any negativity, no matter how small, immediately. Even in public or when riding on his horse, as soon as he noticed the breach of his ethics, he'd stop what he was doing, drop to one knee, then and there, and purify it with the 4 opponent powers. So he always, we have a picture of Atisha we do somewhere. Anyway, he always has this, when there's paintings of Atisha, he always has this little stupa beside him. He always traveled everywhere with a stupa. So whenever he wanted to do purification, he'd put his stupa on a rock or a high place, wherever he was, and do 3 prostrations and then do the purification straight away. Says he do the purification with the powers of dependence, regret, remedy, and restraint. So that's how so as soon as we notice we've broken a bodhisattva vow, we purify it. And given that we're mostly unconscious throughout the day, at night we kind of do a sort of a blanket purification for anything negativity we've created during the day, including broken pratimoksha or bodhisattva vows. So we do this practice before we go to bed with the recitation of 21 long Vajrasattva mantras and the 4 opponent powers, and then we go to sleep. So, that's how we practice. And as you said, if we the purpose of the vows is to help us develop our mind to the level where we just never break any vows. Like it says, compared to us, Atisha may not have had that much to purify. Still, he'd say, I'd never break my pratimoksha vows. I rarely break my bodhisattva vows. But my tantric vows, I transgress those like falling rain. That's what he said. So, the purpose of the vows is to get us to a level where we never break them. But along the way, we're obviously going to break them, but we need to be aware when we break them and purify them and make a strong determination not to do it again. So gradually, over this life and hopefully in future lives, if we practice strongly enough and, have enough merit, we'll gradually get to that stage where we don't really need the vows anymore because we're not going to break them. We have that much awareness, we're not going to break them. Like, the awareness, like, if you burn I always say, you burn your hand on a hot stove, probably that experience once is enough for you not to do it again. You don't need to make a vow. I'm not going to put my hand on the hot stove again. You just intuitively, there's such a close connection between the action and the result with karma, it's not quite that clear. So, so we need to do these practices and take the vows. But you know, the merit of having pure intention to reach enlightenment and taking the vows with that intention, I think that positive potential is far greater than any negative karma we create by sort of unconsciously breaking the vows, you know. What do you think?
Thank you.
Anybody?
Thank you for your time. Sorry to.
No. This is what this is for.
That's a good question. That was a good thing for me to hear as well as you, Ed. So I thank you for asking the question.
Okay, so if there's anything else comes up, just jump in. What am I going to do now? So we got up to verse 31. So I said we're going to start this time, but not so fast. We haven't referred much to Khunu Lama Rinpoche's commentary because he kind of actually skipped through a lot of these, lumped a bunch of these verses together and just made very short comments. But just to review the last few verses we did from 25 to 31, I'd just say what Khunu Lama Rinpoche told us. So he said, the ornament of Manjushri's Buddha Land Sutra, and as I said, I don't know if that's been translated. I'm not familiar with that sutra. Did I say to look it up in the 84,000? I can't remember. Anyway, that sutra explains how long ago Manjushri generated bodhicitta. This is what we can do. Visualize the merit field and all the Buddhas, and in their presence, generate bodhicitta, the intention to attain enlightenment. Then promise, I invite all sentient beings as my guests to the sublime happiness of liberation and enlightenment. I'll not get angry or harbor avarice, covetousness, jealousy, and so forth. I will not harm other sentient beings in any way. I will live in pure discipline by avoiding all negative actions, even worldly desires and sense objects of attachment, such as attractive sounds and beautiful forms and so forth. I shall give up such things. As all the Buddhas have followed pure moral conduct, so shall I. I will not try to receive enlightenment for myself alone, even though it takes an endless amount of time to work for even one sentient being. I shall remain in samsara. I shall make pure the impure realms of sentient beings, places where there are thorns, rocks, and ugly mountains. I shall also purify my 3 doors of body, speech, and mind and keep them pure. From now on, I'll create no more negative actions. So, you know, that's pretty ambitious, but that's basically what Lamp for the Path says. So it wasn't really commentary, he was just paraphrasing the text. So that's Khunu Lama Rinpoche. Then so again, His Holiness doesn't give much commentary on those verses, and Geshe Sonam Rinchen did, and that's what we read through last week. So then we got up to verse 31. So what Sekon Rinpoche says here, so verse 31 says, I shall purify all my bodily and verbal forms of activity, my mental activities too. I shall purify and do nothing that is non-virtuous. as we just read from Khunu Lama Rinpoche. So Sanchab Sekong Rinpoche says here, so this takes us into the training in bodhisattva behavior. And the first topic is the higher ethical self-discipline. So Sekong Rinpoche says, having received bodhisattva vows, we need to engage in the 3 higher trainings that we discussed before. Anyway, we've discussed them a lot. The first of these, the training in higher ethical self-discipline, has 3 aspects. The ethical self-discipline of refraining from negative actions, the ethical self-discipline of following vowed rules of conduct, and the ethical self-discipline of working to benefit all living beings. So then, so Geshe Solam Rinchen says, creating virtue and working effectively for others depend upon our ability to observe the ethical discipline of restraint from faulty actions, from faulty actions to which this verse refers. Especially beginners like us should cherish and place great value on this form of ethical conduct, because we've only recently emerged from bad rebirths. We're very familiar with the disturbing emotions that cause us to act harmfully. They are strong, and at present our capacity to counteract them is weak. Initially, our altruism is fragile and like a tender new shoot which must be protected from damage. As it grows, it becomes stronger and more resilient. Our task as a bodhisattva is twofold: to fulfill our own needs through restraint from faulty actions and the creation of virtue, and to fulfill the needs of others through the ethical discipline of working for their good. In practice, the ethical discipline of restraint from unwholesome action is the basis for all bodhisattva deeds. How can we hope to help others become mature and peaceful if we're not mature and peaceful ourselves? During the paths of accumulation and preparation, the bodhisattva concentrates on strengthening the altruistic intention by creating virtue. So there's the first of the 5 paths, right? Preparation, accumulation, right seeing, meditation, and no more learning. So during those first 2, the bodhisattva concentrates on strengthening the altruistic intention by creating virtue. For exalted bodhisattvas, that's those who are on the first level, bodhisattva level of realized emptiness. For exalted bodhisattvas, the emphasis shifts to working for the good of others, but all bodhisattvas practice all 3 forms of ethical discipline. So then verse 32 goes, when those observing the vow of the active intention have trained well, I think active intention, it means, the engaging bodhicitta. When those observing the vow of the active intention have trained well in the 3 forms of discipline, their respect for the 3 forms of discipline grows, which causes purity of body, speech, and mind. so the ethics of avoiding negative actions, of keeping our precepts and working for the benefit of sentient beings. So that's also those are specified in the Guru Puja, aren't they? In higher training of moral conduct. So the commentary, the more we practice the disciplines of restraint from harmful action, creating virtue and working for others, the more enthusiastic we are to continue. So, we probably, think, I think a lot of us think, our main job in life is to, work for our family and work for our job, whatever job we have, 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and like that. And then the Dharma practice is sort of what we do sort of on top of that, sort of like icing on the cake. But our real job is this one, restraint from harmful action, creating virtue and working for others. Then the family and the job thing actually come on top of that. That should be the basis. This should be the basis. The more we practice those 3 disciplines, the more enthusiastic we are to continue. Restraint from naturally unwholesome actions, from which also those who hold individual liberation vows must refrain, is a potent purifier of our physical, verbal, and mental activity. By not killing, stealing, or indulging in sexual misconduct, we make our physical conduct pure. So those are the first 3, so we're talking about the 10 non-virtuous actions here. So that's what it means. The first one, restraining from unwholesome or negative actions. Not lying, not using harsh or divisive language, not talking idly, and not talking idly purifies our speech. So the 4 non-virtuous actions of speech. By avoiding wrong views as well as covetous and harmful thoughts, we purify our mental activity. Restraint from these harmful activities is maintained through mindfulness and mental alertness. So remember mindfulness, when we meditate on the breath, mindfulness, we have to remember what it is that mind is supposed to be focused on. And then we have this mental alertness, like a little sentry watching for impending distraction. So it's the same thing as we go about our daily lives. If we've taken vows, or even if we haven't taken vows, if we know what the 10 non-virtuous actions are, we have to watch, we have to be aware what they are and make sure we're not creating them. And to be aware when the impulse to create any of them arises, so we can avoid creating that action through becoming aware that we're about to. The creation of powerful virtue stabilizes this purity, while working for others strengthens it. Why not follow the example of the great Kadampa masters, who put aside a black stone for every negative thought of action, and a white stone for each positive one? At the end of the day, they counted the stones. So, if there were more white ones, they felt happy and encouraged. If there were more black ones, they felt regret and took steps to purify anything unwholesome they had thought or done. It's good to try to remember the specific thought or action for which each black stone is set aside. If we know what constitutes infractions of our vows, we can take the prescribed steps to purify them. naturally unwholesome actions are purified by applying the 4 counteractions, the 4 opponent powers. These are genuine regret, a resolve not to repeat the action, taking heartfelt refuge in arousing bodhicitta, and undertaking some form of positive counteractive action, like reciting the Vajrasattva mantra. So this thing with the stones, you know what that, Karen?
I had a question about the stones themselves, so black and white. So when it comes to mental activity, so if an impulse comes that's non-virtuous, but immediately, or the response to that is, no, I'm not going to, that's an incorrect thought, and you think of the antidote. When we're counting the stones, is that both black and white? Is it black or is it white? How would you do that?
Well, I have to confess, I've never done the stone thing, but and the Kadampa Geshis, they lived in caves, they were in retreat, they were someplace. So, and they had all their stones somewhere around them. And I mean, they had some system figured out. So we don't, it's difficult for us to carry around, a big sack of mainly black stones, I guess, and a little, small packet of white ones. But I think you make the rules yourself. If you, you can decide, well, I'm not going to count it as a negative action. They say black. I'm not going to count unless all 4 aspects of the action are there, which would be, motivation, the object, the action itself, and the completion of the action. So you could think like that. So just having the thought, the impulse to do something negative, and then noticing that and deciding not to do it, you can decide to count that, just the thought, as a black action, or think, well, that's definitely going to be too many black stones there. So I'll only count it as a negative action if I follow that impulse and go through with it. So I think, we can make our own rules. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule about how far you have to go before you count it as a negative action. I find that I have something comes up, I want to do something out of attachment, and I notice that, and then I sit thinking to myself, well, if I was a really pure practitioner, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I would, even though I really want to do this, I wouldn't do it. But then I go ahead and do it anyway. So I'm not such a good practitioner, I'm afraid. But then I'd definitely be able to count that as a black stone. So, we have to work with but on the other hand, we can make ourselves crazy too, and then start developing this. Oh, I'm such a bad person. I have all this attachment. I have all these negative thoughts, and I don't really try to counteract them. I just act on those impulses and. What is it Rinpoche said? One of the functions of attachment is to make us ignorant of the shortcomings of attachment. So we know we have an attachment to doing this or doing that, and we see it come up, and then we notice it, but then someone think, oh, it doesn't matter, you know, it's not such a bad thing, you know, I really want to do this, so I'm going to do it. You know, it's hard to really be a professional Dharma practitioner. And so that's where the vows come in. So, you know, there are
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The Geshe Gyaltsen in his commentary on the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life that I referenced another time goes into great detail, not only on the root vows, but the secondary vows as well, and what actually constitutes a breaking of the vows. And it's quite detailed and quite nuanced and surprisingly it's not that easy. It's not, I mean, you can break the vow easily, but it's not, before it becomes there are only two, which I think, Nick, you mentioned before, and that is to give up on sentient beings or wrong views. All other ones require all the steps, and you don't necessarily have to retake them. You can purify them or be forgiven for them. So I think there's a lot of grace, as they would say in the Christians. There's a lot of grace involved in them as well.
Yeah, so, you know, we need, as you said, when we went through the Bodhisattva vows, we saw there were all these different conditions that need to be met to completely break the vows, except for the 9th and the 18th of the root vows. Here we're talking more about the pratimoksha vows. And again, we have these 4 aspects of the vows that if you need to completely break it for it to become a throwing karma, you need to have, the action needs to be complete in all 4 branches. And what Karen was saying, you know, the first of that is the intention or the motivation to do this action. We see it come up, and then we can, if we notice it, then we have a decision. We're going to follow this attachment, or we're not going to follow the attachment.
Nick, I wanted to say something else that I've been reading a lot lately about how we, it's not very helpful if we're always just counting the negative. And so rejoicing and really appreciating our own nature, very obscured nature, but our intention and our aspiration. And so there needs to be, at least for myself, there needs to be a balance so that I am working at keeping the vows, but I'm not getting depressed or I'm not feeling discouraged. And so I really appreciate your saying that, you know, we need to make up our own minds about how we're going to count these things. Are we going to say, oh, this non-virtue came up in my mind, and so it's black? Or are we going to say, oh, but you know what? I noticed it right away. How wonderful. And I decided I'm not going to follow through with it.
Yeah.
Again, how wonderful.
White stone.
Yeah.
So that's what the, I think the famous Geshe Ben Kungel, who was, you know, a bunch of stories about him in the lamrim. What is it? He, you know, before he discovered the Dharma, he was, what did they say? He used to rob by day and steal by night. So, you know, the different, same kind of negative action, but robbing in the day, you know, like he was a highwayman, he'd hold people up and at gunpoint or whatever weapons he had, and and take their stuff. And then at night, he'd sneak into people's houses and steal surreptitiously. So that was his life, you know. And then he discovered the Dharma, and then he went to a cave to try to meditate. And he said when he started watching his mind, you know, at the end of the day, he'd have a huge pile of black stones and almost no white ones, you know. But then as his practice progressed, and you know, he gradually got more and more control over his mind. The pile of black stones decreased and the pile of white ones increased. And so, you know, and every time he was able to put down a white one, he'd rejoice. You know, otherwise, as you say, you know, if we just, and I've seen people do this, you know, just get so depressed. They think I'm so negative, I can't practice Dharma, and they take everything so literally, and have, you know, maybe they started off with low self-esteem, and their Dharma practice takes them even lower. So I'm not quite sure how to say what I want to try to say. Think what I'm thinking here. You know, I think we need to be serious about our practice, but what can I say? Not too serious. That it sort of depresses us instead of makes us. We need to encourage ourselves, and I mean, someone, Lama Yeshe was saying that some student came to him and was very depressed that how negative they felt they were, you know, and how studying Dharma made them seem to be even a worse person than they even thought they were, you know. That as getting those teachings on delusions and negative karma and suffering and this and that, you know, they just kind of was beating them down, you know. So Lama said, yeah, well, you know, you can think like that, but just step back and, you know, then he looked into the distance and said, just think, I've come such a long way, you know, and try to remember all previous lives as a snake and a cockroach, and in the lower realms and the hell realms and in the hungry ghost realms, and here I am. I'm a human being, and I've discovered the Dharma. Now I understand what life is, and the purpose of this life, and how I got here, and all these other things that I've overcome to get here. I mean, just the fact that we're human and that we've met the Dharma is like unbelievably positive. And of course, we're still carrying a lot of negative baggage with us because, you know, we've come such a long way through all these terrible experiences that we really don't want to have to go through again. So kind of step back and get a bit of perspective on who you are and where you are, and just look around the world. Even forget about your previous lives. Look at the lives of others, humans and animals and insects and whatever we can see, and just see how much better than that we are, and kind of rejoice at that fact, and just, you know, realize that we can't just shake off all our previous negative actions just by knowing about them, that they're going to, you know, old habits die hard, right? So, you know, we have to persevere.
one more thing, I'm sorry to interrupt again.
No.
So Geshe Sharab has been doing classes on In Praise of Dharma Dhatu, and I'm finding that extremely helpful in turning my mind towards understanding that, yes, it is possible to become enlightened. And no matter how long it takes, you know, I have that Buddha nature. So someone might want to read that.
What is that, In Praise of Dharma Dhatu? Is that?
Yes.
That's a text by someone, Lama Zopa
I think
Rinpoche.
it's Nagarjuna, maybe. Or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
No,
can't
that's all right.
or Sankapa, I'm not sure.
So what's he saying?
That we all have that Buddha nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, he's helping me to realize that he's inspiring me, I should say it that way. Yeah. He talks a lot about emptiness too. So I'm just finding it very helpful. I believe it may be on YouTube at some point.
And
Nick, is not Buddha nature, in fact, the same emptiness?
the same emptiness as what?
The same as emptiness. That's what I was told, and not some little thing that sits inside your head or whatever. But and also in the point of rejoicing, we say maybe not the same words that you. I rejoice in the merits of Aryas and all beings. That's an infinite field of merit of Buddhas, Aryas, all beings, and all the good things that they have done. And someone also mentioned that in rejoicing sincerely in that, you gain a small percentage of that merit. And since the field is infinite, even a small percentage of an infinite field is a very, very great deal of merit. And the same with dedication. Since you dedicate to all beings, the dedication of even a small bit of merit that you have created expands that through the dedication, not only preserving, but expanding it to an infinite degree. And I think I agree with you. I think that joyous effort and the various accumulations of merit, or the realization that you are of the same nature as all things and of all Buddhas, this is a part that really keeps me going, and I encourage others too.
Well, yeah, thanks, Bill. Yeah, with respect to dedication, that's, I think Lama Zopa Rinpoche often at the end of teaching spends a long time, maybe, up to half an hour dedicating. And so, you do these retreats with I remember the Light of the Path retreats that I think maybe there's another one next year, but it's going to be hybrid or just online or something. But there have been, I don't know, 5 or 6 down in North Carolina that Rinpoche's been doing. And he usually comes to teach in the evening. So we're taking precepts every day, getting up at 4:30 or 5. And then Rinpoche would come and teach in the evening, supposed to come like 7:30. Sometimes he wouldn't get there till 8 or 8:30, and then he'd start teaching, and it's getting later and later. And then, finally like 11:15, 11:30, he says, okay, I think I'll stop here. So you think, oh God, thank goodness, now I can go to bed because I've got to get up again in a few hours' time. And then he starts dedicating. It goes on and on and on. And I think I told this story before, but there was one time in Tushita in Dharamsala, Rinpoche was supposed to give a Haruka initiation, and it was supposed to start at 6 or 6:30, so everyone came in the Gompa at that time, and then there was 7, 8, 9. Rinpoche still hadn't shown up, and then finally he showed up to maybe around 10 or something like that to give this initiation. But then he started doing the motivation and giving these preliminary teachings, and they went on for hours, and then maybe around 2 in the morning he'd start the initiation, and that went on for another 2 or 3 hours, and so finally the whole thing wound up about 4:30, and then he started doing the dedications. So it was like I was so agitated and like so tired and so negative, thinking like this voice in my head saying, "Come on, that's enough. Why don't you stop? Come on, you should have got here earlier. Then we wouldn't have to, you should have got here on time. Then we would have been in bed by now." This voice, and so anyway, finally finished, and everyone's lined up as he's going out, looking very hot. We're all kind of holy, and he stops and he looks at me. He gave me this really kind of savage look and said, "Did you create any merit at all?" And then he just walked out. I was like, maybe not, maybe I didn't. Or if I did, I'd kind of burned it all up by getting so annoyed. What am I saying? So when Rinpoche does dedicate, though, he says, because of these merits and the merit, and we do it at the end of Guru Puja, the merit created by all the past, present, and future Buddhas. And so we just try to, when we're dedicating our own merit that we've created, like at the end of this, we'll do that. But then you think, throw in all the other merit ever created by the past, present, and future Buddhas, by bodhisattvas, by other ordinary sentient beings. We can dedicate it all and get we're doing the dedication, so we might as well get as much mileage out of it as possible. So, so Rinpoche often, and then he dedicates from all these different ways for the lives of the teachers, for the preservation of Lama Tsongkhapa's tradition, and all these other different things that we do. In terms of rejoicing, it's said that if you rejoice at the merit of those who are higher than you, like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Gurus and so on, if you rejoice at their merit, you get half their merit. If you rejoice at the merit created by people on the same level as you, you get equal amount of merit. And if you rejoice at the merit of those who are lower than you, you get double the merit. So I don't know who's keeping score, but somewhere in the Akashic record, or I don't know, whatever that is. And there's a lot to be gained by rejoicing in merit. And was it King Ashoka or someone? I think it was a king who lived at the time of the Buddha, not Ashoka. But he said, he was complaining. He says, how do I practice Dharma? I've got this kingdom to run. I've got wives. I've got children. I've got servants. I don't have time to practice Dharma. What can I do? And so the Buddha advised him, well, the main thing you should do is rejoice. So just rejoice at merit you create. Rejoice at the merit that others create. That'll be your powerful practice. So those of us who are very busy with family and jobs and things, at least we can spend some time rejoicing. And like when did we do Guru Puja? Was it last night or the night before? Wendy stopped after the verse on rejoicing, and we meditated briefly on rejoicing, and that's what Rinpoche always recommends, even when we're doing the 7 limb practice, like we're doing the Ganden Lagema, like we did at the beginning today, the Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, when at the end of the rejoicing verse, just take a break for a few seconds or half a minute or something, and actually consciously really rejoice. Think how wonderful it is that, you know, there's all this merit being created by myself and others and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the gurus. And, you know, this merit is the cause of happiness and success. So rejoice at all the merit ever created. So like that.
Nick? One more fast one.
Okay, give us a fast one.
Pardon me?
Pull a fast one.
Karmic seeds that you're purifying, and it goes back to Karen's question. Let's assume I have a karmic seed to kill, and I kill someone in this life. So I purify that. Now that karmic seed obviously came from a prior life. So I'm purifying what I did in this life, and hopefully purifying the karmic seeds from past lives. But that karmic seed that moves from past lives into this life, which is all my karmic seeds, is it like one killing karmic seed? So if I try to purify the karmic seed of killing in this life from the killing I did in this life, do I purify all of the other karmic seeds for killing in prior lives? Or it's kind of like a shotgun. There's like thousands of karmic seeds for killing, and you don't know when, well, you do know when they come up, but each one has to be purified individually. Does that make any sense? No.
Yeah, so that's why we do the 4 opponent powers, because, you know, it's not enough just to purify the negative actions we've done in this life. We need to deal with the negative actions done in previous lives since beginningless time. So, you know, there's impossible number of karmic seeds of killing. We killed so many times in previous lives, you know, and you know, we've been Hitler and Stalin and Mao and all these famous killers of millions of people in the last century. You know, we've done all that countless times since beginningless time. So that's why the way we deal with previous negative karma created in previous lives is by making a vow. That's why we make the vow. That's why we take precepts. You know, not, you know, we can say, oh, I don't need to take a vow against killing because I don't kill. That's good as far as it goes, but it doesn't go very far. It's just dealing with a little bit of this life, you know. What about all previous lives killing those karmic seeds that are still in our consciousness? So we deal with those by making a vow not to kill. So, you know, making a vow not to kill sort of sends this sort of neutralizing energy back through our consciousness to sort of dampen down the previously created karmic seeds. So, you know, we need to remind ourselves of the vow and take more vows, and the more vows we take, and the better, and the longer we keep them, the better. The more purely we keep them, the better, and the more quickly we purify broken vows, the better. So there are these different aspects of the vows, but the two main functions are they help prevent us from creating that negative action in this life, and they also diminish the energy from, and you could say purify previous lives' actions of killing or stealing or whatever it is. So the way we deal with previous lives' karma is by taking vows, especially the pratimoksha vows. You don't look convinced. You don't look convinced.
Is it that karmic seeds that cause the killing in this life? Is that a continuation of prior karmic seeds? And by purifying in this life, I'm purifying or trying to purify all the way back, or are there multiple killing karmic seeds that could come forward in this life or future lives when they meet with the proper causes, conditions?
You know, it's hard to say for us
Okay.
which when we have, whether the karma to kill, you know, we have this tendency to, you know, kill mosquitoes or shoot deer or whatever it is. It's hard to say exactly where that came from in terms of was it created, that karma created earlier in this life, or in the last life, or a million lives ago. You know, it was definitely somewhere, but you know, it's hard for us to say. And you know, when it comes to subtleties of karma, only an enlightened being can tell. Even the highly realized clairvoyant arhats can't, who have you know, can see a lot from in the past and into the future. They can't see all the subtleties of karma. What do they say? You know, the karmas that the Buddhas can see, that high realized arhats can't see. They're very tiny karmas, like what do they say? The karma, a peacock tail has all these hundreds or thousands of different colors. So each one is the result of a karma. So only a Buddha can see what karma was created to cause that particular color in a peacock's tail. That's the example. Or they can't, only Buddha can see a karma created billions and billions and billions of years ago. Or only a Buddha can see a karma created, you know, way, way on like the other side of the universe. There's a fourth one, I can't quite remember. So distant in time, distance in space, different in subtlety, and can't remember. But so only a Buddha can really, maybe only a Buddha could tell you if you just, you know, killed a cockroach or a mosquito or a fly or something, you know, perhaps only a Buddha could see when you created the karma. It was like, you know, the story of the old man who wanted to become a monk. Srijata, I think was his name. The old man, do you remember, you know that story in the lamrim?
The fly?
Yeah, so
Yes.
he wanted to become a monk, and one of his arhat disciples, you know, one of these, Shariputra and Madgalyayana, I don't know which is which. They kind of look the same. One's Shariputra, the other one's Madgalyayana. Madgalyayana was famous for his psychic powers, and he was the abbot of the monastery with this old man wanted to become a monk, and he looked at him and he couldn't see that the old man had any karma to become a monk. And, you know, they didn't want to take old people into the monastery anyway, too much hassle. So, so he kind of slammed the door and kicked him out. So the old guy was wailing, and he said, well, my life is over, you know, I can't become a monk, I'm going to kill myself. So he's about to kill himself when the Buddha came, and no, that's not. He was weeping and wailing outside the monastery gates, saying they won't let me become a monk, you know. And then the Buddha came and saw that, in fact, he did have karma to become a monk, because many, many, many lifetimes ago, he'd been a fly, and he'd landed on a piece of cow dung, and this cow dung was in a gutter with flowing water, and he sat on this dung, and the water in the gutter flowed around a stupa. So he got to circumambulate the stupa. And because of the power of the object, that was enough karma for him to be qualified to become a monk. So then the Buddha told Madhgaya, okay, you can let him in. He can become a monk. So then there's a whole backstory and there's a whole forward story, but we don't have time right now. So when we, and remember there are the four, what do you call it, four aspects of karma. You know, karma is definite. The positive karma can only bring happiness, and negative karma can only bring suffering. And then the second one, karma is expandable. So that's where, you know, if we kill and we don't purify that, so what does it say in the lamrim? If you kill a mosquito and don't purify that action, it kind of festers, the karma sort of multiplies or develops like, you know, like a sourdough starter. It kind of regenerates and gets stronger and bigger and stronger, so that after 2 weeks, the karma of killing a mosquito has become equal in power to having killed a human being. Is that in the lamrim? So that's why that's why we should purify before going to bed every night, because there's so many negative actions that we've created that we're not aware of. And if we don't purify them, even without bringing them to mind, just if we say any negative karma I've created today, you know, as well as all the negative karma I've created since beginning this time, we do purification. So we do that to stop it sort of festering or multiplying. So, so the karma is definite, karma is expandable, it multiplies, and you can't experience the result of a karma that you haven't created. And the fourth one is, any karma created is never lost. And it remains in our mind until it's either experienced or destroyed or purified, So again, so with killing, it's kind of, any negative karma or positive karma for that matter, any karma is kind of habit forming. So the more we do something, the easier it is to do it again. And the sooner it ripens too. If we have very habitual actions, if we're very habituated to killing in previous lives and we bring that tendency into this life, then it's we're more likely to experience the negative result, getting ill, having a short life, being killed or harmed by others, or being in dangerous places and so forth. So that's a result of unpurified negative karma of killing. That if it's a strongly habitual action, we're likely to experience the results sooner than if it's just a very occasional action. Then we may go many lifetimes without experiencing the result of that kind of karma. Okay. So so the creation of powerful virtue stabilizes this purity and working for others strengthens it. So so then we talk about the white stones and the black stones, and then the 4 opponent powers. The fact that it's possible to purify wrongdoing shouldn't make us casual about performing negative actions. So that's also what I'm saying. We have this impulse, this attachment comes up to do something. I think, oh, I really shouldn't do that, but I really want to do it, so I'll do it, and then we think there's another thing, well, I can purify it later, So a broken leg may mend, but it will never be quite as strong and healthy as it was before. That's true. So it's best, as what Lama Yeshe also used to say, if you break a cup, you may be able to glue it together, but it's never the same. It's best not to perform a negative action in the first place, but if we do, there's no need to carry a burden of guilt forevermore. Since we created the negativity, we can purify it. In our hearts, we should hold the wish to maintain pure ethical discipline and express this wish in prayer. Overcoming our clinging to and desire for objects which stimulate attachment contributes greatly to our ability to observe ethical discipline. As we practice with sincerity, this ability grows. The ethical discipline of creating virtue is maintained by including the 6 excellent factors and the 6 perfections, as described earlier, in all positive actions we undertake. The virtue created through this strengthens, it makes us ready to exercise the ethical discipline of working for others, which includes 11 major ways of helping and befriending them. People in all societies help and offer support to others in these ways. When done not merely out of a sense of obligation, but with a profoundly kind-hearted motivation by someone who holds a bodhisattva vow, these actions become the ethical discipline of working for others as practiced by bodhisattvas. So the 11 ways of helping others. The first of these 11 ways of helping others is to offer them our support and practical help in farming, business, and other occupations, provided no wrongdoing is involved. Most people do not have independent means, but need to work for a livelihood. We can offer advice on how to make a living and how to increase and look after their profits by ethical means. We can help and support those who are suffering, for instance, the sick, by donating medicine or nursing them. We help those who are disabled in whatever ways we can, by learning sign language in order to communicate with the deaf, by guiding the blind, teaching them Braille, buying a guide dog or sponsoring its training. We can physically help the crippled or invent gadgets to help them overcome their disabilities. There are so many things we can do once we're aware of the possibilities. So all these different ways of helping others is the first of the 11 means of helping, 11 ways of helping others. I haven't seen these 11 mentioned anywhere else. You familiar with them, anybody? So this is, so it's good stuff to know. Second consists of helping those who are confused about what means to employ, particularly in their quest for happiness. They may be experiencing unhappiness and pain as a result of wrong actions. We skillfully try to help them recognize that their own actions are responsible, and that if they want to avoid unhappiness and pain, they must avoid creating their causes. Of course, we can't stop their suffering in the way that you can stop the pain when you pull out a splinter, but we can perhaps help to decrease it and prevent them from doing what will bring future misery. So, you know, this is basically trying to educate people in cause and effect, in karma, you know. Because that can be tricky, you know. You know, when someone's in pain and or suffering some kind of loss, you know, you can't just say, well, it's your own fault. You know, we need to be a little skillful, you know, and people don't like to hear that the Holocaust happened mainly because the Jews who were killed and imprisoned and tortured and all these terrible things happened, they created the cause for that to happen. You know, everyone likes to blame Hitler or the Nazis or the Gestapo, but the principal cause was created by the people who are experiencing the suffering. Now, the people who appear to be the cause, who are inflicting the suffering, you know, Hitler and the, you know, his army or whoever, in a previous time, you know, put it the other way, in a future time, they will be the ones who are suffering, and the Jews who were killed in the Holocaust may become the Nazis who were inflicting that suffering on others. I mean, it's cyclic existence. Is what goes around comes around. You know? So when we're trying to explain to someone who's suffering that they created the cause, we have to be very careful and skillful in how we explain it. And of course, they may not be open to that explanation at all. But the second means of help. Yeah.
Should we also be careful that we don't think, well, they created the cause for the suffering, therefore they deserve it. And instead of thinking, having compassion for them because we all create our own suffering in a similar kind of way.
Well, no, I think that, I mean, we should have compassion. Actually, we should have more compassion for the people who are inflicting the suffering at this particular time, because the ones who are undergoing the suffering, they're purifying that karma. You know, they're getting rid of that karma. The ones who are inflicting it on them, we should feel more compassion because they don't know what they're about to undergo. But, you know, we see the suffering that they're creating for others. I mean, looking at what's going on superficially, you know, they're about to, sooner or later, going to experience that themselves. So we should have compassion for both sides, you know, and you know, and then think how can we help? You know?
But in that sense, there can never be an innocent victim. Even the only innocent victim, it seems to me, would be a fully enlightened Buddha. If you had the ability to harm that Buddha, then that Buddha would be an innocent victim. Everybody else still has the process of dependent origination as part of their process that they're involved in.
Yes, theoretically that's true, but of course you can't inflict harm on the Buddha. The Buddha can't suffer because there's no karma to experience suffering. So, but you know, if we try to harm an enlightened being, it does cause a lot of harm for ourselves. You know? Okay, so the third is being useful to others. This particularly refers to welcoming and receiving strangers in a gracious and friendly way, and providing food, accommodation, guidance, or assistance in a respectful and pleasant manner to whatever extent we can. Lama Yeshe used to say that his mother was like that. That when in their village, whenever beggars came to the door, or people came needing some kind of help, she would always offer it. And his father, I think it was his stepfather actually, was always complaining to his mother, saying, "Don't help these people. Just let them fend for themselves, or you're always trying to help these people, but they're just taking advantage of you." So, so that's the third way, being useful to others. Fourth is helping and protecting those in fear. There are many ways we can rescue creatures and protect them from being devoured, burnt, or drowned. We can comfort people who are fearful, and even if we cannot ourselves free those who are imprisoned and subjected to torture or otherwise in danger, we can contribute in different ways to organizations that work for their rights and freedom. The fifth is consoling the grief-stricken. They may be suffering from the loss of parents, children, partners, loving or helpful friends, or from the loss of their possessions or their country. Grief is not always apparent, but may be deep-seated and unexpressed. So, if we don't know someone's got deep-seated or unexpressed grief, I don't know, it may be difficult to help such people, but those who are obviously grief-stricken, we try to comfort them. But not by saying it's your own fault. Sixth, helping the needy. This may be done by providing them with basic necessities. However, there are many people who suffer from spiritual poverty who would like to practice meditation to bring about an inner change, but do not know how and have no one to whom they can turn for reliable advice. Although we may not be in a position to alleviate the material poverty of many people, teaching others about authentic spiritual practice can have far-reaching effects. It can change their lives, affect their future and their interactions with other people. So the seventh way of helping others is helping those who seek a spiritual teacher by agreeing to teach them, not for the sake of fame or for respect or reward, but out of a genuine and compassionate wish to help them. We try to help them materially, both by seeking support for them and sharing what we have. We then teach them how to gain mental stability through counteracting individual disturbing emotions, how to transform themselves through understanding the middle way, and how to prevent and overcome pride based on the misconception that they've attained insights or results which they have not. So, helping support the center and developing the center and making more people aware that the center exists, to help those who have the karma to be helped in that way is also, would come under here, I think. Helping those who seek a spiritual teacher. The eighth is helping in ways that accord with others' thinking. We must consider others' dispositions, interests, and abilities when helping them, but only concur with their wishes when their fulfillment will bring both temporary and ultimate well-being. Sometimes we may have to give advice that conflicts with their immediate desires, if this will ultimately lead them to happiness. The ninth is supporting and encouraging those engaged in good works, those who have faith, who study the teachings or practice generosity or ethical discipline, or who cultivate wisdom or enthusiastic effort. We may do this by reminding them of the excellent results that their endeavors will bring. Ethical discipline and generosity lead to good rebirths and prosperity. Wisdom gained through hearing, thinking, and meditating is the key to liberation. Faith and enthusiastic effort are essential both for the attainment of good rebirths and liberation. So we offer support to those who are discouraged and in danger of giving up the good they are doing, and try to help them overcome the obstacles in their way. So supporting and encouraging those engaged in good works and so forth. The 10th way of helping others is to direct those who are heading for trouble back to the right path. The 11th consists of using miraculous feats to help others. This cannot be done unless we possess different forms of higher perception that depend on the development of a calm, abiding mind. So, we may not be able to do the 11th one yet. So, people talk about miracles. I wish I could see a miracle. I've never seen a miracle. Show people the lamrim outline. I think that's a miracle. It's a miracle that the lamrim outline exists. It's like a roadmap to spiritual perfection. To becoming enlightened, but also, it's almost said to becoming God. To become that there's a path to become attaining the most highly developed level of mind. There's a roadmap. It's right there, the lamrim outline. How to do it. Isn't that a miracle that something like that exists? It's just amazing. So if we can, while we don't actually have miraculous powers, we have the ability to show people the lamrim outline. So that's almost like a miraculous thing. Okay, so these 11 ways of helping others, we need to read that teaching a few times, think about it, meditate on it, and see how we can do each of those 11, how we can bring each of those 11 activities into our own life. So then the verse 33, therefore, through effort in the vow made by bodhisattvas for pure full enlightenment, the collections for complete enlightenment will be thoroughly accomplished. So this verse explains the benefits of training in the different forms of ethical discipline. Through them, we purify our physical, verbal, mental conduct, remove hindrances, and create stores of positive energy and insight. So we purify our body, speech, and mind, we remove hindrances, and create a huge amount of merit through training in the different forms of ethical discipline. We're not going to stop here because then we kind of go into a new section. So we'll do that next time. If you don't have this book, it's really worth getting. This is what we're really spending most of our time looking at. And, you know, just as I blah, 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 you know, and read from it is not enough to really understand or sink in, you know. So while we're studying this subject, if we have this sort of one main text, then we can develop our three wisdoms of reading, hearing, you know, contemplation and meditation in between these different sessions. So, you know, when the lamas would teach text like this in Tibet, they'd teach maybe a verse in one session, and they'd discuss it and talk about it, and then the students would go away and think about it, meditate on it, and try and get some insight into the meaning. You know, 1, 2, 3 verses, whatever it was, and then come back the next week and then report to the Lama what their experiences were, and you know, sometimes he would say, well, you haven't understood properly, go away and keep meditating on it. So, or then if the Lama felt that the student had really understood it properly, then he would teach the next verse. So, so we can't do that because there's no Lama here, but we can try and get more out of these sessions if we think about what we just went through over the next week and meditate on it and try to get some experience of the meaning.
Nick?
Yep.
So Geshe Sonam Rinchen also has the similar wording in this. Where can I get it?
What's that?
Almost. Wait a
6
minute.
perfections?
It's the 6 perfections.
Yeah. Similar wording to what?
To what's in the Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment.
Yeah.
As a
So, so Geshe Sonam Rinchen's, as I said, there are several books published on 3 principal aspects of the path, and anyway, a bunch of different books. So they're all worth obtaining and studying. I don't have a list of them here. Anyway, the more we study and think about and meditate on the teachings of these great teachers, these highly learned Geshis and so on, the better, obviously. Okay, so thanks. We generated bodhicitta at the beginning. We're discussing Atisha's Lamp for the Path. So we've really created a lot of merit. So think, because of this merit, and also, of course, merit created by the Buddhas and Buddhas and sentient beings through the past, present, and future. Through all this merit, may all sentient beings quickly be freed from suffering and reach enlightenment. So that's the meaning of these dedication prayers. Okay, thanks, Bob.
So, excuse me. Saji perki jukshin me tok tram ri rab ling jini dig in padi sange jindu mikte uwadi droko nam bab jing la cherpa shuk jitun lame kutse rabjin ching nam katrin le chok chuge padang lo sam ten pedren me sasungi drowe munsel tatu neg yurchig idam guru ratna mandalakam niryatayami. From my two collections, vast is space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the paths as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this graded course to enlightenment completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chen Rezig remain in life till samsara's end. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Nik me te wei ter chen chen rezi, dream ken pei wang po jom del yang, gong chen ge pei zu gen song ka pa, lu sang drak pei Shabla Sovade. Thank you, Nick.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody.
Nick, and thanks everyone.
Thank you, Nick.
I didn't catch that. What?
I said thank you, Nick, and thank you everyone.
I second that. Okay, so see you next week, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.